Okay, I think I did it. We're ready to go. Wait 1 second. I just need some fresh air in here. Welcome to Facebook Live. I'm Dr. Susan Blum, and we are here again to talk about arthritis. And if you're just joined me, welcome. We're at 8 o'clock on Thursday night, and I'm going to host a question and answer session. As you all know, I was the host of the Arthritis Summit. And the summit ran from October 9th through 16th. And a lot of you sent me a lot of questions. And so this is a forum for you to ask questions and for me to answer them. And we did this a week ago, and it was great. So many of you showed up and asked me a lot of questions. And I actually have a list of questions that were sent in also, because we asked you to send in questions, and a lot of you did. And so we're going to answer those questions again today. So while we're waiting for people to join, I'm pretty sure I have my microphone all fixed, but I did plug in my other microphone tonight, but I still think it's going to work. So if you're listening, please send me a comment and just tell me if you can hear me. That would be really helpful. For those of you who toughed it out with me at the beginning of our last broadcast last week, for the first 5 minutes, you couldn't hear me, and then I figured it out. So I'm waiting for somebody to send me a nice comment, and I know we are broadcasting, and so yeah. So send me a text, send me a comment, and so let's see if people are coming in. Oh, let me show. Wait 1 second. Maybe I'm not seeing it. Oh, there we go. Audio good. Thank you, Carla. All right. So somebody did send me, and we can hear you. Perfect. Hi, everyone. Now that the technology stuff is out of the way, we can just dig into questions. So welcome. And I'm really excited to be with you all again. And we're here to talk about arthritis. And, you know, arthritis has been on my mind. I spent a lot of time writing this book. And so my book came out, and a lot of you know about this, and you might have it already. So these are the questions we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what's in the book. I'm going to answer your questions. I'll give you, I'll tell you all about what's in the book, and we can talk about the protocols and all of that. And so I'll go out of the way there. Okay. So let's talk about, so you can all hear me, no questions there yet. So let's just jump in, and we're going to talk about questions that you have. All right. So I hope a lot of you got a chance to listen to the Arthritis Summit, because I interviewed 35 of my colleagues. It was so amazing. I sort of had to hone my chops as an interviewer. That was new for me. And I got to really sort of pull out a lot of information from my colleagues. And I think from what everyone's told me, they found it really helpful. But it did generate a lot of questions. And so I would say the questions that I've gotten have gone into 3 sort of categories. A lot of people ask me questions about food. And clearly, there's so many questions about food. And so maybe we'll start there. And then the next series of questions are about, actually, maybe I'll even start here instead. A lot of you sent in questions telling me all the things you've been doing for the past years, that you either have rheumatoid arthritis, my book and the summit, my book, Healing Arthritis. If you haven't gotten it, get it now. The book and the summit all covered, I really tried to cover the whole umbrella of all kinds of arthritis, because no matter what kind of arthritis you have, and this is my mantra, that's my dog making a lot of noise on the floor. Trixie, be quiet. No matter what kind of arthritis you have, whether it's rheumatoid or osteo or psoriatic arthritis, at the end of the day, we can find the sources of inflammation and treat them, and your pain will get better. And so a lot of you have sent in, so we cover all kinds of arthritis and the nuances of each one as well. But a lot of you wrote in and said, I've been doing this for so long. I changed my diet. I've really been, eating this way. The food made a big difference, but I'm still not all better. And so why? Why not? And so we do have to look at the food and figure out if there's anything maybe you're missing, or that I can contribute to that conversation. But there's sort of a common theme that a lot of you have not done your work on healing your gut yet. And so that's the next step. And so, for example, let's see. somebody with an email of, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the last I think is Hallie Stahl, said, I'm taking 4 milligrams of Medrol in addition to 400 milligrams of Plaquenil every day for my RA. I'm on an anti-inflammatory diet with pretty much the guidelines you recommended, which is great. So started with food, and that's great. I have 2 cavitations that I need to take care of, and actually this will be a good opportunity to talk about the oral health. However, the dental surgeon tells me that he would prefer that I stop taking Medrol before the surgery. My attempts at lowering Medrol have not been successful. I've done lots of ozone, glutathione, and vitamin IVs, which help, but the root cause does not seem to have been addressed. Thank you. That's such a great question. Do you have any recommendations that can help me lower my Medrol? Thank you. And so for those of you on steroids or who have ever been on steroids, you know that this is an important thing to try to get you down on the steroids. And this person who submitted the question understands, and so good for you, that you understand that you're still looking, if you can't get off the prednisone or the Medrol, it means you haven't found all those causes of inflammation and taken care of them. And so you've done food, and that's great. And you're working on your mouth, and that's great because actually infections in your mouth can be one of the problems. But you haven't, at least you didn't share with me, that you've done any work on repairing your gut. And the research is clear and unequivocal that the gut and gut health, which means all those 100 trillion bacteria in your gut and any potential microbes that might be overgrowing in there, like yeast and like parasites and harmful bacteria, especially the ones that have, we talked about this last week, the LPS, the gram-negative lipopolysaccharide positive bacteria that can overgrow in the gut. And unless you repair the microbiome, and unless you heal your leaky gut, you will not have addressed one of the most important foundational root causes of inflammation in your body and of arthritis. And so in my book and also in the summit, I tried to pull this out, and I chose all the different people in the summit. Like I chose the lineup because I was trying to cover a lot of very important bases. And so we had a whole day dedicated to the gut. And so we must do that. And so let's just talk about gut health for a second and how you repair your gut, because several of you, so that's your next step. You have to work on healing your gut. And you do have to treat you're in a chicken egg situation, right? Because for rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune arthritis especially, but there's a lot of research now looking at cardiovascular disease and oral health. The microbes in your mouth an overgrowth of bad bacteria in the mouth. Some specific ones are actually correlated with rheumatoid arthritis, like Porphyromonas gingivalis and Prevotella intermedia. But there's your oral health can create inflammation in the body too, periodontal disease. And so you do have to address that. But while you're waiting to be able to do that, I would say work on your gut. And so another person who sent me the same kind of question, let me find them because I sort of flagged it up, where I said needs gut. So somebody else said, I have had achy hands and feet for over 8 weeks now, have Hashimoto's, and unsure if it's arthritis. Following paleo diet for over 4 years with some modifications, what could be triggering these symptoms? Again, somebody who knows food's important. A lot of people do use paleo for an autoimmune sort of program, and that's fine. I don't believe, and I review in my book, long-term health for the gut is eating a lot of vegetables. So a paleo diet is not, unless you're eating 70% vegetables and just some animal, and that 30%, that's fine. But a more Mediterranean-based diet is great for healing the gut, and those are the studies that were done with arthritis. But the paleo diet, what we have in common is greater than what separates us. A healthy, good Mediterranean diet doesn't have a lot of grains. There's no bread. We all dip our bread in olive oil in our country. But when you go to Greece or other places around the Mediterranean, they're not busy eating a lot of bread. It's just not big in their diet. So when you look at a Mediterranean diet, which is just a very high fat, healthy fat diet, they eat cups of olive oil every day, and a lot of nuts and seeds and fish. It's really done the right way. A Mediterranean diet is not that different from what we're talking about. No processed sugar, getting rid of all the processed carbs and flour, limited breads and grains. You know, they're not just sitting and living on pasta like we do in the United States. So anyway, coming back to the whole point about the gut. Oh, hello from Canada. And hi, Sarah. Thank you for getting my book. Oh, I really appreciate it. Writing a book is a real labor of love, I have to say. And it's definitely, you know, yes, you give birth, but then the whole world is looking at your baby, you know, and now I'm just waiting to see if people like the book. So definitely give me a shout out and tell me if you like the book, because my first book, The Immune System Recovery Plan, is still in hardcover because people still love that book. And I'm so grateful. That was the most gratifying thing I didn't realize I would, you know, that would happen, is how much I would just feel good about how much that book is helping people. So I really hope arthritis helps you too in the same kind of way. And so coming back again to the person who wrote in and said, I'm on paleo. I've been doing paleo for 4 years, which is great, because a healthy paleo, or done the right way, is also telling you to clean things up. Low toxins in your food, low processed sugars and flours in your food. You know, there's none of that actually. But really looking at eating clean and eating anti-inflammatory. And so you're doing the diet all these years, and you think you're feeling a little bit better, but then you're like, well, what? I still have Hashimoto's. Your achy hands and feet for over 8 weeks. We'll come back to that in a second. But what's the next step, or what could be triggering the symptoms? The next step is healing your gut. Now, for you in particular who have a recent onset of achy hands and feet for 8 weeks, I don't know where you live, but new onset arthritis needs to be diagnosed. And so you must, if you have any joint pain, specifically in the joints, or any of the joints are swollen, because that means it's arthritis. Remember, an itis means redness, swelling, pain, and heat in your joints. This was asked, let me tell you who this is. Who are you? This is CZ Easton 11, your email address, that asked me this question. So new onset arthritis needs a diagnosis. So that's the first thing. And using food alone sometimes is not going to be the only thing that'll work. It's imperative. You have to do food, but you also need to do other things. It's not, there are some people where food might take you the whole way, you know, especially for people with osteoarthritis. Sometimes the food changes alone will reduce the pain enough so that you feel like you're done. But for the most of you that are listening to me that have inflammatory arthritis or severe arthritis of any kind, mandatory to work with food, but then you have to heal your gut. And food is definitely intricately related to the gut, because the way you eat, that's why I was talking about vegetables. And, you know, you really need those vegetables to improve the gut microbes. And so over the long run, you can try to influence the gut with food. But here's my analogy about the garden. Right? So if you think about your digestive tract as an inner garden, and all these microbes live in the small and large intestine, and the small and large intestine, about 90% live in the colon and 10% live in the small intestine. Those are your bacteria. And if you think about them like flowers, right? Beautiful flowers in the garden. And what happens is sometimes there are weeds in the garden, and the weeds overgrow. And there are all sorts of conditions. You know, people ask me all the time, like, how did I get here? You know, why do I have weeds in my garden? And the weeds could be candida or other yeast. I actually had a patient today that had 3 other kinds of yeast in her stool test, and it wasn't candida. It was geotrichum, it was rhodotorula, and it was this one that I've never seen in a stool test before called cryptococcus. I mean, 3 different yeasts. And so you can get these things growing in the gut. And you can also have parasites, and you can have overgrowth of those bad bacteria that I talked about before. And so we'll talk about how that happens, but I'll come back to that, I promise. So when you have weeds in your garden, the food you eat will definitely influence what's growing. So that's one way you could have gotten there. And so by eating certain foods, you will help feed the good bacteria, and you can starve the bad bacteria. So getting rid of all the sugar will make a big difference for those yeast, and also those bad bacteria like Klebsiella, they really gobble up the sugar too. So getting rid of the sugar will definitely help. And so and so the weeds so if you have your inner garden and you have these overgrowth of weeds, you really need to use a weed killer. Oh, that's my email. Sorry, folks. I'm just gonna just give me a second. I'm gonna turn my emails off. I need to keep my volume on because that way you can hear me. Okay, done. In order to kill the weeds, food long-term is the best way to ensure the good balance in your microbes. But sometimes you need a weed killer. And what do I mean by a weed killer? I mean herbs. I use herbs. And so we call these herbs, and I go through, I have a whole healing your gut. This is a 3-step protocol for healing arthritis. And step 2 is a 2-month of healing your gut. The book is actually very, very focused on explaining the whole gut arthritis connection and then teaching you what to do about it. But I'm going to tell you tonight the short of it, right? And the short of it is you need to weed the garden. And so I actually use herbs for almost, depending on how severe your arthritis is or how severe your digestive symptoms are, okay? I use anywhere from 1 to 2 months, and usually 2 months of herbs. And the first month is usually more intense, and the second month will be a little less intense, meaning the dosing and the amount of herbs greater the first month, and then we do it like a half dose or full dose the second month to clean out the weeds. And so I use things like oregano oil, but I also really love a combination of herbs like berberine and black walnut and uva ursi and artemisinin, which is great for protozoa and cleaning out parasites. There's controversy over grapefruit seed extract. The other stuff is really the most important stuff anyway, which is, so I said berberine, black walnut, artemisia, uva ursi. You start with a blend like that with some oregano and voila. And you take that for a couple of months, like 1 to 2 months. It actually takes time. And this is the other thing you have to remember. Healing your gut is not a quick fix. You don't go like that. Healing the gut is a repair of your ecosystem. Your whole, you have an outer ecosystem, the forest, the animals, the birds and the bees, everything's in balance. There's a huge ecosystem happening in your digestive tract. And it's the whole environment. And you actually have to create this environment for the good bacteria to flourish. And that's, again, where food and stress and sleep come in, like lifestyle stuff. That really helps. And exercise. All these lifestyle things that we all talk about, that's how you nourish a healthy microbiome. And so those things you need to do long term. And so my 3-step program in my book is step 1 is, I call it the leaky gut diet for arthritis. And it's really how you have to eat it first. It's the first step. You start with food. And there is a elimination diet aspect to it because your gut is really leaky. If you have arthritis, you have a leaky gut. Now, I just do a test on everybody just to prove it to them or to help me know and track my progress while I'm treating people. But you really don't even need a stool test. I'm telling you, you are I'm virtually positive you have dysbiosis, which is an imbalance in the microbes, and that you have a leaky gut. And you just have to set about treating it. So the first step, so you start with food is step 1, and after the 2 weeks, you move right into week 3, healing the gut. You do that for 2 months. And then my step 3, I call the finish what you started 6-month program, because that's all about lifestyle. And that's all about, Gail, I see your question. I will list the herbs in a sec again. And so, but I just want to point out that this whole herbal program that you do, which is really required, you need it. It will clean out those weeds. It's not enough just to use food. It's not enough just to take a probiotic. You really need this sort of gut cleanse, as I call it. And I've done this for 2 decades in my practice. And there's 6 of us. I have a big health center with a lot of doctors, and we're all doing this. And it works. And so, and I tell you a lot of stories of patients in my book. It's like, all different stories of all different people and exactly the doses and exactly the supplements that I use and their exact programs over several years of time and how they were retreated and how we healed their gut and that whole thing. And so I'm still getting back to my 3-step program because I want to tell you that the 3rd step is, I call it finish what you started 6 months. And because I want to emphasize that to finish what you started, you have to work with the ecosystem and you have to make some permanent lifestyle changes to support your health and to support your body. And so so we talk about how to eat for the long-term health of your gut and for your lowered inflammation and for your arthritis. Okay, so coming back to step 2, healing the gut. And so I see there are questions about exactly what to do. I tend to use herbal blends, and so look, you can see exactly what I use. It's on my website, so blumhealthmd.com. The blumhealthmd.com is where I have I've got treatment programs, and I have you can look at the supplements and the products that I use, and see the lists and the exact doses. It's all there on my website, blumhealthmd.com. But I use, like I said, it's a combination of berberine and uva ursi and black walnut, and I'm sure I'm missing something, but artemisinin is the last one. And the cool thing about artemisinin is that it also works on parasites. Berberine, all of those herbs will also treat yeast, which is why it's really nice to use herbs. And then, of course, I always add oregano. Oregano sort of amps everything up, and oregano is great for the yeast. And so I use sort of what I call the green herbs and a little oregano, and I give somebody, that's what you take for 1 to 2 months. And usually the second month I do oregano with all those herbs the first month, and the second month I'll just do the herbs. And it depends on what somebody has. If you have a lot of candida, you'll probably want to stay on the oregano for the 2 months. And so, yeah, it's definitely, oh, thank you, Gail. She found it on page 105. Yes. And so if you have any questions as you're looking at that, that's great. I really tried to explain exactly what to do in the book, because here's the thing. Not everybody can come see me. But this is such important information that I'm trying to get out, because so many people think arthritis is inevitable and there's nothing you could do. Really. I mean, people are shocked when I tell them there's something they could do about it. And so you can treat the root causes of inflammation and you will feel better. I promise. And I've seen it over and over. And so I'm just on this mission to educate everybody and get the word out. And books are the easiest, most accessible way to get content to people, right? And to give that information out. And, it's not just me saying so, right? The research is really, really compelling. And that's the thing about writing a book. You have to do a lot of research and look at all the latest studies on everything. And it's really, really true. So that's my little thing about the gut. I do want to talk answer some of the food questions. If anyone has any gut questions, you can specific gut questions, you can post them, and I will look at as the comments are coming in. But I want to answer a couple of the food questions, because people have so many questions about food, and I am happy to answer them. Here's another person that said, what do I do next? I'm just going to read this, and then I'll answer the question about the food that just got posted. Hi, my name is Valerie. I have RA, and I'm on an elimination diet since November 2016, which is great, but boy, that's a long time to be on the elimination diet. Since May 2017, I'm on Dr. Brown's protocol, and since September. So you started LDN, which is low-dose naltrexone. Low-dose naltrexone actually, it's a treatment for autoimmune. It works for some people with autoimmune to balance the different parts of the immune system. Initially, I felt very good, but since I started antibiotics, she thinks she has Lyme. See, things get confusing. It's not the same anymore. Every day, my palms are so swollen. Otherwise, the pains appear rarely, not very intense, and only when I mistakenly eat something forbidden. Please, can you tell me what to do next? I don't have a doctor of functional medicine around me. It's just another example of take a look at your gut. You've been doing step 1. You're stuck on step 1. Step 1's important, but please move to step 2. Step 2 is healing your gut, okay? Step 1's really important. A lot of people don't actually ask me questions about stress and the importance of trauma and stuff that they've been going through. People flare terribly with pain and inflammation when there's something traumatic happening. So that you have to make sure to be paying attention to, but food is first step 1 is food, and then you move on to the next steps. Okay. So let's talk about food. Let's see. Christina says, why do you have to avoid eggs from your diet? So funny. I had a patient today. I saw patients all day today, and now I'm talking to you guys. A long day for me, but that's okay. But it was about eggs. And so here's the thing about eggs. And I want to address your question two ways. Because you said, why do you have to avoid eggs from your diet? I'm actually not telling you that you have to permanently avoid eggs from your diet. What I'm doing, when you do any kind of first steps in any food program, okay, and my step one is called a leaky gut diet for arthritis. Because you have a leaky gut, you're going to have a lot of food sensitivities. And so the first step of a new food plan when you're healing, when you want to reduce pain, you remove a whole list of foods because you have a leaky gut, which means your immune system is seeing a lot of the foods you're eating. Like the food particles are slipping across the intestinal lining and into your bloodstream, causing an immune reaction. And so at the very beginning, when you have a leaky gut, until we repair your gut, we invite you to do this experiment where you remove a list of foods that are known to be the worst triggers of inflammation. Now, eggs, when you look at kids and babies and for people that have true allergies, eggs have a very strong sort of proteins in them that people often have they're often allergic to eggs. And so I'm not saying that I think you have an egg allergy. What I'm saying is because people tend to get really sensitized to eggs very easily because the proteins in eggs are so strong. If you have a bad leaky gut, there's a good chance that you might be sensitive in this moment to eggs. And so the food piece is always an invitation. Step one is do an elimination diet, do the experiment. It should be temporary. The restrictions or the degree to which we're restricting you is a temporary situation. Anywhere from 3 weeks minimum. In my book and in my protocol, I really invite you to do it for 4 to 6 weeks until you sort of really move into the gut step and start working on healing your gut. Because really, when you reintroduce the foods, you want your gut to be in better shape than it is now. And so you remove the foods, and so I'm asking you to test the eggs. If after 6 weeks or so you eat the eggs again and you have no reaction, then eat the eggs, they're good. So I'm not telling you that you should eliminate eggs as a permanent thing. I'm saying test the eggs. See if you're sensitive to it. And it's very, very, very specific, very easy to follow instructions in the book. And also even my first book, we do elimination diets. We have coaching programs and all sorts of ways we could support you with this. You can also submit questions, on my website. It's called Blum Health, blumhealthmd.com. There's a support button at the bottom right corner, a big orange button, and my health coach answers questions. And so you could submit a question there if you're in the middle of doing an elimination diet and you're stuck and you don't know what to do. Melissa can answer the question. So, all right, let's see another food question. So that was my answer about eggs. What is the proper tests to request to test for food intolerances? That's a really good question, Gail. And so here's my answer, and it's not, you might not like it, but I'm sorry because it's just the state of food allergy testing. 1 second. Oh, wait a second. Do you guys see this? Is this I hope that's not in the middle. Okay. Do you guys see like a strip in the middle of my my picture? Can somebody tell me that? I have this thing that says Be Live Production Studio, like a big picture. Do you guys see that? Because I can't get rid of it. It's sitting across my face. I don't know if any of you see that. Anyway, so all right. So the question is, what's the proper test to request for food intolerances? The best way for you to figure out if you have any food intolerances is to do this elimination diet. So somebody said yes. So you can see that thing across my, Yep. Oh God, that's so annoying. I'm so glad I asked you. It wasn't there last week, so why is it doing that? Okay, let's see if I could try to move that. No, it's not. I cannot move it. Oh, it's at the bottom. So let me see. All right, so if I do that, at least it's not in my face while I'm talking, right? Is that a little bit better? So I guess I have to figure out why it's doing that. Okay, somebody says that's better. Okay, I can see I'm sorry for that. So next week, I'm going to get rid of that. I don't know why it's there, but we are going to figure out like how to get rid of it. All right, I'm putting me in like a different place. All right. All right, better. Sorry. Somebody should have told me. You guys have to tell me that that's what's happening. Okay. We see you now. It's okay. All right, Petra, thank you. All right. Food intolerances. So the way you're going to test for food intolerances, the really best way is to do this elimination diet. Because here's the thing. There is a lot of, seems to be an ad. Well, here's the thing. I am using Be Live because I'm on my laptop onto Facebook Live. And so I guess they're trying to put their own ad in front of this, and that's really is a little annoying, but last week it wasn't there. So I'm going to find out for next week how to fix that. But at least I see now my face is above it. See it. Anyway, coming back to food testing. So think about it this way. Your immune system has, let's say, 100 different ways that it can react to something you're eating. And so if we have some blood tests that we can do, and the blood tests can be helpful. And there's different kinds of blood tests, and there's IgG blood testing, and we call them food sensitivity testing. And you can do these tests, and sometimes they can be very helpful, and they will tell you if the food you're eating is causing a certain reaction. But here's the thing. A lot of times the food you're eating is causing a different reaction that isn't that exact one that the test measures. So what I'm trying to say is that I do the test on someone, and perhaps you can't eat eggs because we were talking about eggs. You can't eat eggs, and the eggs just bother your stomach, or the eggs give you heartburn or reflux or something. And you do that food sensitivity test, and it doesn't show an IgG response to the eggs. Does that mean you can tolerate the eggs? No. It just means that the eggs are not triggering that exact kind of response. Okay, does that make sense? And so I don't rely on the food sensitivity testing, but sometimes after we do the elimination diet, but sometimes I do the food sensitivity testing. I've been using the company that Tom O'Brien recommends, the Wheat Zoomer people. It's the company that does Wheat Zoomer, and they do an IgG, IgA food sensitivity test, and I really do like that test. And so you can do the test and you can see, but you have to do both. It doesn't give you a pass on doing the elimination diet, because the elimination diet will give you one whole bit of information about food intolerances, and the food sensitivity test will tell you something else. And now that that we talked about leaky gut, what happens is the worse your leaky gut is, the more things that are going to light up on the blood test, because all these foods your immune system is being exposed to all these foods, and it's causing a lot of immune reactions. And so at the very beginning, when I start working with someone, if I do a food sensitivity test and I see there's like 20 things that are positive, remember, it's not the food's fault. The problem is with the gut. So it means you have a really damaged gut if you have that many things that you're reactive to. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense for everybody. So Gail, you said, I believe I'm sensitive to gluten from genetically modified grain, but I seem to tolerate with no problem non-GMO grains. Well, that's really interesting. So this brings up the question about what is it in the wheat that people are reacting to? And there's a big debate about this. Now, there's no doubt that gluten itself damages the gut. And so it is really important to, especially if you have a leaky gut and a damaged gut and you have arthritis, gluten is not your friend. But here's the thing. What else? There are other compounds in wheat that people often react to that are problematic. And so you really, so sometimes there's other things in wheat. And then we have the issue of GMO and pesticides, the herbicide glyphosate. So raise your hand and tell me if you've heard of glyphosate and you understand the problems with glyphosate. So who out there knows what glyphosate is and Roundup? Come on, tell me yes. Tell me you're listening. And so I'll tell you. So here's Roundup. So what happens with the genetically modified crop is that the GMO seed is created so that it can be resistant to Roundup. And the chemical in Roundup is called glyphosate. And glyphosate damages the gut really bad. And so what happens is when you say that you're sensitive, yep, I'm glad you all have heard of glyphosate, because this is really, really, really important. Sometimes when you're eating sometimes when you're eating wheat, bad stuff, yep, pull up bad, because it's really, really damaging to the bacteria in your gut. It damages the microbiome. It like kills it. And it also damages your tight junctions, right? The gates that when they're damaged cause a leaky gut. And so you really want to make sure that the food you're eating is non-GMO, because when you eat a GMO food, the Roundup comes with it. Because the crop that's being grown in the field is being flooded and doused with tons of Roundup, because the food, like the soy plant, for example, is standing in the field and it's fine. And it doesn't care how much Roundup you dump on it, because it's resistant because of the GMO. And how about rice? If it's not organic, it can be if there's GMO rice, then you have a problem. And if it's not organic, then I'm sure they're using pesticides and herbicides. And so Roundup is the most common herbicide now used. I don't know what the statistics are. Maybe one of you know, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere the statistics are just that it's like the #1 most commonly used herbicide now in our agriculture. And this is a really, really big problem. And so Monsanto sort of got this through wherever they got approved to use this before the study. And they buried a lot of the studies. I mean, it's really bad what we're finding out, and it causes cancer and the link to autoimmunity. And so we have a big problem. And so when you're thinking about food, and that's, Gail, I'm glad you put that question up. When you're thinking about food, there's multiple things you might be reacting to. It might not just be about the gluten. And so a lot of gluten-free products that are GMO, that's where sometimes the corn and the soy, corn and soy are the two most prevalent, they're the most, the percentage of soy on the market and the percentage of corn, the highest amounts of GMO, because they're made for they're commodity crops in our country. And so those are all GMO. So that what happens is when you eat all those processed food and you have your little box of crackers or something and you're reading the ingredients and it's got corn starch and corn this and it's got soy this and soy that and all these little additives, those are all genetically modified soy and corn. And so you're getting tons of crap, and sort of toxins that's coming into your body with the food, which is one of the reasons why when you do an elimination diet and you get rid of all the soy and corn, because it's gluten, dairy, soy, corn, eggs. For arthritis people, we take out nightshades as well. When you remove all those foods, you really have you really have to go through all, right? I know it's hard to eat in any restaurant. When you start saying, okay, I'm going to go into this elimination diet and clean up and see if I'm sensitive, you actually start reading all the labels and you discover all the corn and soy that's crept into our food supply. And by taking out the corn and soy, you actually end up getting rid of all your processed food because it's just crept in everywhere. And so what do I suggest? I suggest you read every label you can and you eat non-GMO corn. After you test yourself and remove corn from your diet, for example, and then you reintroduce it and you see if it triggers symptoms. And if it doesn't, and you can eat corn, you have to choose non-GMO corn, and it has to say so on the label. And usually, not every time, not all organic has to be GMO, although I had this debate with a whole bunch of people in different places. So there's a whole group of people who really believe that organic is GMO-free. But I know Eat Soy, there's a big movement to create this label that says GMO verified, where you actually have a verification with somebody, a governing body, this GMO project, tests the product to make sure there's no GMO in there. And so it's hard, although I have to say it's not that hard if you eat organic and you read your labels and you eat whole foods and you eat plants just like they were when you picked them. And so soy and corn, like I said, are the biggest ones, but you do have to worry about grains. And so that's my whole little rant about GMO and food sensitivities. And so when you're eating foods and you find a certain plant product, like a grain of a different, let's say it's wheat, but it could be spelt or something else that is non-wheat, but it might have gluten, or you're trying to figure out about the gluten, remember there are other things in that plant that might be a problem too. So I think that's what I would say about that. So let's see. The other thing I wanted to talk about was nightshades. Somebody asked me a question about, I seem to be allergic to nightshades. If I completely avoid tomatoes and potatoes, in particular, the pain in my hand is almost non-existent. If I eat them, the pain comes back. I eat a predominantly raw plant-based diet. Will this cease over time, or will I always react to them? And again, this sort of comes back to my little statement about, well, first let's talk about nightshades. Tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, and peppers are part of a family of plants that have this irritating compound in it that when it comes into the body, for some reason, it definitely is associated with arthritis. Some people have tomato issues and they can eat the other foods. What I will say is that this again comes to about food sensitivities, and that your food sensitivities are terrible. Often you have a lot of them when you have a leaky gut. You heal your gut, your food sensitivities are going to get better. I know when I had my arthritis, I had this inflammation in my eye, which is associated with arthritis, and this one swollen joint in my finger like 2 years ago, which actually was one of the reasons that prompted me to write the book. I went off nightshades for 3 months, and tomatoes definitely caused me joint pain the next day. I don't have that anymore, and that's because I healed my gut. And so you heal the leaky gut, and later on you could reintroduce the food. So if you're still having persistent issues with the nightshades and it's years going on, it just means you haven't finished your gut work. And so you should be able to eventually tolerate them in little amounts. Maybe eating tomatoes all the time is not in your future, but they shouldn't trigger such a reaction over time if you're doing the gut work that you need to do. So question about sweet potatoes. Absolutely, you can eat your sweet potatoes. Oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't scroll down and I missed some of the questions. Oh, hi, Donna. Hello from McDonough, Georgia. Nice to meet you. And hi, Michelle. Are you the Michelle that I know from Armagh? I see a question from Michelle. But so remember, food sensitivities, worse at the beginning. You should be able to get past some of them. But gluten, even if you don't feel it's triggering a symptom for you, even after you recover from your arthritis or you recover from your autoimmunity, gluten's not your friend because it will further damage your gut. And the gluten in our foods is just different than it was. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to do a whole rant on gluten. You might find you'll be able to tolerate gluten on occasion, and be down the road. You can just avoid it most of the time and cheat here and there. And that all depends on you guys, on everybody individually. So I'm going to move on because there are questions. So do you recommend any specific brand of probiotics? You're listening from San Diego. Did you move? So I'm sorry, I'm having a conversation with someone that I'm friends with. Hi from Tallahassee. Thank you. Hi, Terry. Specific brand of probiotics. My favorite brand of probiotics is from a company called Claire, Klaire. I don't have any interest in the company. They've just been around for 20 years. They're the first company that the DAN, Defeat Autism Now movement sort of teamed up with to treat autistic kids for many, many, many years. And so I love their products. Really, they're a probiotic company. And you can pretty much, I have it on my website. You can get them from me, but you can also get them, I'm pretty sure you can find, and nowadays you can find everything everywhere. So that's Claire. Okay. So let's see. My next question is, yes, yep. Oh, that's everybody. All right. Thank you. Next question. I'm sorry. I'm just checking all the people that are here. I wasn't scrolling and I didn't see all your questions. I'm sorry. Yes, so I'm probably sensitive to the Roundup. Yeah, you could be, Gail. Absolutely. People, you don't realize it. I have to say, I'm so sensitive now. It's terrible. Where was I? I was out at a restaurant. I met my friend for lunch, for actually Sunday brunch on Sunday, and I got salmon. And I had a arugula with salmon on it. And I'm like, okay, this should be fine. But I'm so fussy about salmon. I really only eat wild Alaskan king salmon in my house, and I don't get farmed salmon. doTERRA is a good company. Somebody just asked about doTERRA probiotics. doTERRA is a good company, so I'm not familiar with their probiotics, so they're probably fine. But anyway, I ate farmed salmon for the first time on Sunday, and I could taste in my mouth, like, toxins, like the pesticides or whatever's in that fish. You can tell once you're really clean, you can tell the difference. So that was, we talked about rice. It's hard to eat in any restaurant. I just told you my story. Sweet potatoes are fine. How do you heal your gut after a round of antibiotics? Okay. Here's the thing. You want to avoid antibiotics as much as you can. So when you heal if you're a person with chronic sinus issues or chronic immune issues, if you heal your gut and do the gut work that I'm proposing you do, your immune system will be stronger and you won't get sick so much and you won't need antibiotics. Antibiotics are like a napalm for your digestive tract, for your gut. If you find you have to be on antibiotics, the first thing you take is something called Saccharomyces boulardii, and that's a good yeast probiotic. It's there's a brand name called Florastore over the counter that you can get, and so you can do that. And so Florastore, the Saccharomyces boulardii will protect you from Saccharomyces boulardii will protect you from. Sorry, I'm looking at comments. It's coming across my screen, and I'm getting distracted. So the boulardii will protect you. You take it during the antibiotics. Really good. Okay, so that's one of the first things you have to do during, and a regular probiotic. And then what I usually tell people is for 3 months after antibiotics, you really do high dose probiotics. You take 50 to 100 billion of mixed strain if you have to take antibiotics. Look, we all have to sometimes, but you really just double your dose or your daily dose of probiotics after antibiotics, and make sure you take Saccharomyces boulardii during the antibiotics. What supplements do you use to remove pesticides out of your body? Now that brings us to a question about detox, and I don't really talk much about how do you spell that? What's the question that you asked me? How do I spell what, Mona? Oh, boulardii. Okay, all right. Saccharomyces. Okay, that's hard. All right. S-A-C-C. I wonder if I could write on the screen. S-A-C-C-H-A-R-O. Boulardii. Okay, I'm going to see if this goes up. Look at me. You see that? I actually can put something up on the screen. I'm such a newbie to this stuff. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my goodness. My thing went away. Oh, look at that. So let me see. Would you believe I could have done that the whole time? All right. Well, thanks for sticking with me, even with that horrible line across the screen. Oh my goodness, that's like terrible. Well, I don't know if you guys are my age. I think I'm pretty techie for my age. I mean, here I am doing this from home, but I mean, really, it's so annoying. Okay, so I don't remember what I was asking, but now you see about the Saccharomyces boulardii. I put that up for you. So people are asking all sorts of questions. So let me just see have you encountered high red blood cell magnesium levels in your practice? I have arthritis with high RBC magnesium. Well, first of all, I hope your doctor retested it because it is unusual. You do want to just see if you're taking magnesium supplements in anything you're taking. If you really, it is unusual. It definitely is unusual. But just retest it. That's always important. And look for the source, because it means you're getting it from somewhere. It's either in water you're drinking or some food, or there's something you're doing where you're getting the magnesium. If I have my results from US Biotech and I have low levels of antibodies to nightshades, does that mean I do not need to worry about it? I have IBD with migratory arthritis. So, this is what I said before about doing the food sensitivity testing. Just because you tested negative on the blood test doesn't mean that you're not sensitive to it. And so what you need to do, I'm glad you were negative on the blood test, But what now you need to do is you must remove it from your diet and then reintroduce it and see whether or not you get a flare. Okay, you have to test yourself for symptoms now. Now, here's the thing: you have migratory arthritis, which is not typical for rheumatoid or osteoarthritis. And if you have migratory arthritis, you must get yourself to a doctor to be checked for Lyme or other infections. Migratory arthritis is usually infectious in origin, so that's not classic for RA, and it's not classic for osteo or autoimmune. Okay, so get yourself to the doctor and get tested for Lyme. Okay, and if you so test yourself for the nightshades. And the other thing to remember is when you remove all the nightshades, you remove them all at once, and then you reintroduce them one at a time. So tomatoes you eat separately from peppers, and you eat separately from white potatoes, and you eat separately from eggplant. Okay, so sometimes it's really about the reintroduction is just as important as the elimination. So you have to be clean for at least 3 weeks, and then one at a time you slowly test it to be very clear about which foods it is. Okay, so everybody's happy. We got rid of my strip. Okay, I had a stool test and was found to be deficient in 2 beneficial microbes, common with RA patients. The studies in rheumatoid arthritis are fascinating. They're trying to, actually there are people out there that are trying to sort of, just like we're doing breaking the genetic code and we're deciphering our genes, they're trying to map the patterns of the gut bacteria. They're trying to map the patterns of, you're welcome, Gail. They're trying to map the patterns of the gut bacteria and to see if there is patterns that are specific to RA. And some of the researchers actually think that we're learning that RA people have a certain pattern, and you can actually, if you just gave someone that someday will be able to diagnose RA based upon just looking at someone's stool microbiome patterning. And so thus the importance of, and that's like an ecosystem that's developed in RA people. So thus the need to really work with the gut to shift the ecosystem and to change the microbiome pattern to a less inflammatory state. So I was told to go on BioK Plus for targeted treatment. Oh yeah, I don't know what BioK Plus is. The question is, how long should I have been on it? I took about 7 months. I don't know what BioK Plus is for targeted treatment. I guess it's a probiotic. So here's the thing. This is again a question about, is it good enough just to if you have dysbiosis, which are overgrowth of weeds in your garden, is it good enough to just take a probiotic or just change your diet? Is that going to be enough to really repair the gut? And so, Linda, what you need, it's not enough just to do that. You have to do a gut cleanse because you have this pattern of microbes in your gut, and while you're low in some things, you have I guarantee you have an overgrowth of some things that shouldn't be there. And so you have to do sort of a gut cleanse. And something like berberine, which is one of the main ingredients in all the herbs that I use, berberine actually spares the good bacteria while it cleans out the bad stuff. And so it's a great herb and very well tolerated. And so you have to do your gut cleanse. And so you have to clean out the bad stuff, and then it'll be easier to shift the ecosystem. It's like pruning the garden and then replanting. Okay? All right, so you guys, it's 8:55. We have 5 minutes. So I'm just going to look and see. I can only answer like another question or two, and then we're going to go. And I'm going to be here. I'm going to do this till mid-December. We're going to skip Thanksgiving. So I think I'm going to do 3 or 4 more. We'll do a run of this, and hopefully by then you'll get all your questions answered. Can I order a CDSA from me, a stool test? No. Sorry. Well, you can, but you have to become a patient at Blum Center. So I have a nurse practitioner, I have a nutritionist, I have with 4 doctors. We're all there, and so you just have to become a patient of the center, and then we could send you a stool test. There are some companies that have direct to consumer stool tests, but the problem is you need someone to interpret it for you and to tell you what you need, and to put you on a program. And so you can find a functional medicine practitioner. Actually, for those of you looking to find a functional medicine practitioner, you can go to functional medicine or ifm.org and put in, like, find a practitioner and see if you can find someone near you. It's another way to do it. But we can't, giving you a stool test is starting a doctor-patient relationship, and we can't just do that. Yeah. So enjoy the little tech victories. Thank you, Joel. Clarifying. So another question about detox. Next week, I promise I'm going to answer a lot of the detox questions, and maybe that's how we'll end. Because although, Mona, I'll just answer for you, how much of each of these herbs do we use? That is, you can go, I'll give you 2 places to go to get that information. My book, I give you exact dosing. Okay, it's very clear. So that's easy. The other thing is, on my website, I give you actually the herbs I use, which you don't have to buy from me. I of course, transparency, I sell them there, and that's fine, but I don't care if you get them from me or get them from somewhere else. But you can see the ones I use, and you can see the doses and the recommended directions, and so you can see what I use, and it'll be there. So and that is on blumhealthmd.com. So blumhealthmd.com. That's my website, blumhealthmd.com. Yeah. So blumhealthmd.com is where you can get all the information about the products, because they're all there. And so I have product descriptions, and then you can read all about it. And so I'll end on the note about detox. And yeah, I know, Harriet, I know. So I keep trying to get to detox, but I keep getting interesting questions. So I know that diet plays a huge role in joint pain. Okay, 100%. So step 1 is food. You can't not do food, but you also then have to move on to healing your gut. It's more than one thing, because as the functional medicine saying goes, if you're sitting on multiple tacks, you have pain. And so just taking a painkiller is not going to fix the problem. You have to find the tacks and remove them. And if you find one tack and pull it out, and that's the food one, right? That's going to help. You have a little less pain, but all the pain's not gone. You have to find each of the tacks and remove them. Which brings me to my last minute, which I just want to touch on detox. When it comes to toxins and toxin load, toxins can cause a lot of what we call oxidative stress in the body. That's like free radicals running around damaging your tissues. And so toxins can definitely play a role in increasing the oxidative stress, which definitely influences joint pain and inflammation. And so I don't really go into that as much in my book, in the arthritis book, but in the Immune System Recovery Plan, which is my first book, that's a 4-step program for treating autoimmune disease. And that's food, stress, gut, toxins, and detox. And then 5 is infections. And I talk about that, so toxin piece, I really cover in my first book big, and only little in my next book, because of all the research on the gut arthritis connection. I really wanted to focus on the importance of healing the gut and how to do it in the arthritis book. But I'm happy to talk more about toxins. And I see there were several questions, one about MTHFR. You know what, David, come back next week and ask me that again. Methylation is a very important step in detox processes, and helping the body have a lower toxin load is going to be really important for reducing oxidative stress. And oxidative stress just means too many free radicals. And there's clear studies that inside the joint capsules of people with arthritis, there's high levels of this oxidative stress. And so on that note, we're going to go, because I can't talk forever. So a lot of information about oxidative stress in my book. The note I'll leave you on is that it's not enough just to remove things from your diet to reduce your inflammation and your joint pain. You actually have to bring things in. Focus on what you're going to bring in. You have to bring in color and fruits and vegetables, and some fruit. And that color and those antioxidants and green leafies, antioxidants, that's another thing that's anti-inflammatory in its own way and will help put out the flame in your joints. And that actually helps you detox as well. So it's 9:00. Everybody have a great night. Thank you for joining me. And next week, I won't have that stripe across my face the whole time. And I appreciate you bearing with me, and we're all doing the best we can. So be well, and wishing you all a pain-free week, and I will see you next week. Same time next week. It's going to be Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, but not on Thanksgiving. Okay? You're very welcome. Hope to see you all soon. Okay, bye.